Mentally or physically, success can be defined as getting up one more time after you've been knocked down over and over and over again. I'm T.Wood, and this is Triumphant Moments, where I highlight significant moments in life that are far beyond the surface to inform, inspire people to triumph over their life's challenges. With me today, I have my brother Charlie Ward Jr. He is originated from Thomasville, Georgia. He was a stellar quarterback in football and equally impressive point guard in basketball at Florida State University. I apologize, the Florida State University, winning the Heisman Trophy and a college football national championship under the late, great Bobby Bowden. He was drafted twice by Major League Baseball and was a 1994 first-round NBA draft pick, 26 overall. Had 11 seasons NBA career, and served 2 years as an NBA assistant. He is a husband, father of 3, mentor, and coach. In 2015, he established the Charlie and Tanya Ward Family Foundation to leave a legacy of giving back to supporting youth development programs and organizations, providing disaster relief support and supporting student athletes. Charlie Ward, my brother, welcome, welcome, welcome.
I appreciate it, T.Wood, and like your shirt there.
This is representing Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Am I right, my brother?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just to give a shout out there, what chapter is it that you belong to?
I was 95, summer 95, Mu Beta Beta. It's a grad chapter there here in Thomasville, Georgia, where I grew up.
Okay. And of course, shouts out to my Sigma Theta chapter of Voorhees College of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Also, my brother Charlie, just to go ahead and jump right into it. If you were just to kind of describe what your daily routine looks like right now, I don't know what is considered normal, but what would it be in the morning? Workout routine? Would it be the coffee? Would it be prayer? What's your routine look like in the morning?
It varies. Like I've gotten more into not gotten more, but it really depends on what I have going on. So, in the mornings it's a compilation of things. There have devos that I do, multiple devos that are either sent to me. They're sent to me through some friends of mine who's they've been doing it for a couple of years now.
Okay.
And then the morning really consists of whatever it is that needs to get done, whether it's interviews, whether it's meetings, and then in the afternoon I go to a basketball class. We have a basketball class at the school, and I go over and run that. That's every day we have something. Depends on the day. So it's all outlined and structured. With study hall on one day, we have offense and defensive skill work that we do on 2 days a week. And then we have conditioning only on one day, and then there's an open gym on Friday. In the afternoons, now that the wife and I are really empty nesters, we have 2 of our kids in college, and then we have our youngest son who's at a boarding school. So we kind of have our afternoons and evenings after everything to ourselves. And my wife, she just started college at USC graduate program, and that's Southern Cal.
Yep.
And so
alumni.
She's working as well.
Okay.
It's kind of all encompassing, a lot of different things, but there's some time.
So it's safe to say it switches up. There is no regular thing like this is always happening, the same thing every day. It sounds like it can switch up on you sometimes.
I mean, some of it could, but there are some things that are regular. I mean, I put on the schedule.
My brother Charlie Ward, how would you describe your upbringing in Thomasville, Georgia? Okay. Talk about your life with your parents and your siblings. How many siblings did you have, growing up?
Well, just to plug, I do have a book out
Okay.
called The Athlete. And if
Okay.
you like to get more details on my family, you can definitely read it there.
Okay.
You
Okay.
can get it on Amazon or charlieward.org. But
Okay.
my parents graduated from Florida A&M. That's where they met. And I had my oldest sister also graduated from Florida A&M.
Hmm.
And so I grew up kind of coming back and forth. I actually was born at Florida A&M's hospital when that was the thing. That was the only place that we could be born.
Hmm.
Um, and so,
Wow.
but I mean, I grew up I have four sisters and two brothers.
Okay.
My oldest brother didn't grow up with us. He was a child from my dad's from high school, and so he was a little older than us.
Okay.
So we really didn't grow up together. We of course know of him, and he was a brother, but we didn't grow up together in the same house.
Okay.
There's two sets of us. There's the older set, and then there's a little divide with the younger group um, to make for the six. And we kind of grew up. You know, the younger group were babies when we were going into high school.
Ooh.
It was like 11-year difference between. Well, it's a little bit longer than that, but 11
Right.
years between myself and I'm not the oldest, but I'm the second oldest.
Okay.
Myself that was in the house, I should say.
Okay.
Um, it was like 11 years between myself and the babies. They're twins.
Okay.
So there was like that little divide, but we took care of one another. And I just grew up in a small town. Everyone kind of knew each other. We grew up in a neighborhood where we played ball all the time. We were friends. We had our what we would call our street games, not the ones that we know about, but we would get our teams and go and play other neighborhoods and football and basketball. And so that's kind of the way we grew up. Um, I mean, there was those other games, but
Right.
for us, it was about sports and competing and having fun.
Hmm. When you sit down and you think about it, and just throwing out there, I'm from a town not too far away, but Gainesville, Florida. I was born and raised in Gainesville, Florida. So there's a whole Southern hospitality thing that I'm accustomed to. But growing up, were there certain core values or teachings from your parents that might stand out to you?
Well, I know one would be just they taught us how to love each other and support one another. Uh,
Wow.
that's one of the things that they did and showed. They're great role models in that. Whatever we did, we supported one another, even if we didn't want to go um, to a dance recital. But
Hmm.
that's what you do. And maybe they didn't want to come to a sporting event or orchestra, event. So it's just we always supported one another. Our parents showed us that, and they took it to another level. They traveled to all of my football games where I played. They didn't miss. They went in
Hmm.
the red behind it. But that was just the way they made ends meet. And
Hmm.
we never
Did your
got.
coaches or any mentors also play a role in addition? That's like an extension of your parents, maybe?
Yeah, I, every coach, there's as I mentioned when I spoke about Coach Bowden, we call them villages, village coaches, village
Mm.
dads, village moms. We had those. All my teachers played a big role in helping me develop in whatever area, whether it was elementary, all the way through high school, and even in college. And the same thing with the coaches. You know, um, they're like village dads to me. They helped me grow and develop into the man that I am today.
Wow.
My middle school coach, taught me about, you know, just doing the little things. I was one of the most talented kids on our team, and everyone looked up to me. It was eighth grade, and you know, during
Mm.
practice, there was a loose ball on the floor, and I decided that I didn't want to get on the floor for it. Um, and I was just gonna, try to stand up and get the ball, and the other guy went on the floor to get it, and I was like snickering because I was immature,
Mm.
and just like most kids, thought it was funny that the ball's on the floor and I didn't get it, and it was just one of those deals, and
Right.
it was a life changing moment for me because the coach, who is a friend of the families, and also we went to church together. He put me on the line, like in front of the entire group. It was very embarrassing,
Mm.
but put me on the line in front of the entire group and made me run a suicide because I didn't get on the floor, and two, I thought it was funny.
Right.
And that moment kind of changed the way I you know played and competed, because being most talented on your group, on your team, he taught me that valuable lesson that everyone is not immune,
Mm.
uh, to doing the little things, and it every time, that's one of the ways I was able to make it through my college and NBA career, is
Right.
because I started to do those little things. And
Wow.
getting on the floor is not something I didn't do again.
Mm.
So it was a very eye-opening experience, but very humbling in a lot of ways. And that's the way I coach today. One of the ways I coach today.
That plugs in. It's amazing how you can pull from what you've been through to kind of conquer, what's in front of you or currently going through. It's interesting how you stated how being one of the more talented kids in your group, and as far as your upbringing. Now, coming out of high school, many would assume there are way more opportunities than Florida State, but you chose Florida State. So, is there anything in particular that you remember that stood out about Florida State? And it's safe to assume that you had more opportunity than Florida State to attend.
By that time, there were a lot of letters. I
Okay.
started receiving a lot of letters. I think either my sophomore year, received some. My junior year, I received a lot more.
Okay.
And my senior year, it kind of started to dwindle, the numbers. Um, so Auburn was like the fourth school, but they at the end decided to go a different direction.
Hmm.
Um, I, of course, was recruited to play football, but I wanted to play basketball as well.
Right.
And Georgia Tech, I took a visit there. However, my buddy Sean Jones, who was a good friend of mine from Thomasville,
Okay.
he ended up going to Georgia Tech, and so it left the University of Georgia and Florida State as the last two teams. And you know, it really came down to Coach Bowden allowing Brad Johnson to play basketball and football, and that's
Wow.
what I wanted to do. Coach Dooley, another Hall of Fame coach, but he didn't have that type of history. They said they were going to allow me to play, but I'm not sure my career would have been the same if I would have gone to Georgia. But it was those were the last two schools that I had to choose from, and I just chose to stay a little bit closer to home, and also playing for Coach Bowden, and him allowing Brad to play basketball and football is what I wanted to do. So I chose Florida State.
I tell you what, and I said this earlier. Um, Again, I was born and raised in Gainesville, Florida. No matter what city I'm in, I'm always kind of considered, I always consider myself, from the country. And there's a certain level of Southern hospitality that I'm accustomed to. I'm talking about sitting out on the porch sometimes. Everybody in the neighborhood is your friend. Everybody knows everybody, as far as in the town. So I'm accustomed to that. Now, that doesn't necessarily exist in all cities as you travel and as you go different places.
Right.
So, with that said, how did you adjust from your collegiate career in Florida to the jump of being a professional athlete living in New York, city, playing for the New York Knicks?
Of course, it was a cultural shift and an adjustment. Um, that like you said, our experiences have shaped our thoughts and actions and things that we kind of do today. And so just I had an opportunity to go to New York for the Heisman with the
Mhm.
family. So I was a little bit familiar, but I had only heard about New York, and the only things we heard about New York was people stealing, killing. That's what we heard when I was, on the news and all the different things. So,
Mhm.
of course, in my mind, that's what I thought. And what made up New York, and it was big, and all the different things that you saw,
Right.
Madison Square Garden, just the George Washington Bridge, all the different things you heard about New York, Statue of Liberty. I got an opportunity to see that when I went to the Heisman. And yes, one of the things that I remember most when I went to the Heisman was I missed that Southern hospitality, meaning they didn't speak to you, they just walked by you. And they were kind of rude. I felt like they were rude. And if you were driving, I mean, they're blowing the horns and, just not turning the blinkers on. They're just moving over. And it
Right.
was like controlled chaos on the streets.
Mhm.
And so after I left, I was like, man, I could never live here. And so that was in December when that happened. And 5 months later, I was, I was, 6 months later, I was drafted to play for the New York Knicks. And so, just like always, we have to make shifts um, in our thinking, and we have to find a way to make it work. And so I made the adjustment of going from small town Thomasville to a bigger city in Tallahassee to like this mega city. But I
Mhm.
kept, where we trained was in a smaller, was in the suburbs.
Mhm.
So and then when we came to the city, it was definitely an adjustment, but it was something over the course of time I had to learn, and I had to learn how to be like one of them. Meaning,
Oh,
you're gonna if you're gonna drive,
right.
you have to be aggressive,
There you go.
safe but aggressive. Um, and you some I mean I kind of blended in with everyone on the street. So I didn't stand out like 6'5", and so being with the New York Knicks, people did recognize me when I walked on the streets, but I could definitely cover up and no one would notice um, me walking down the street. But it was just it was different, But
Wait
I
a minute.
adjustment.
Wait a minute, Charles. Let me hold on. Let me make sure the listeners know. You're not saying that you didn't turn on your blinkers. Now, you're not saying that you didn't turn on your blinkers when you was driving.
There were some times that I didn't turn on my blinkers. I mean, I did learn, I did turn them on so I can get over.
Right, right.
But even with that, sometimes you turn on your blinkers and wait like you
Mhm.
do in the South. People will let you over.
Right.
However, there, I mean, you may sit there because people not going to let you over. And so that's why I say sometimes you have to be aggressive and
Right.
drive like them so that you don't get run over.
Right. So if there was a key ingredient that stood out to you as to what was key for you making the adjustment, is there anything that you could say that stood out to you for you? Actually, was it a person? Was it a thing? Atmosphere? Spirituality? What really was a key ingredient to you making that adjustment from Florida? You know.
Yeah. Well, I was blessed to be able to. I was introduced to a driver,
Okay.
um, and there, with the Knicks, sometimes you have a driver take you to um, wherever you were going, and there were some games that I, when we had to go to New Jersey to play the Nets, I may have a driver take me over, just so that I wouldn't have to drive through and be get ready and focus on the game.
Right.
Um, and that driver was was very helpful. It was my rookie year. We became friends, and he kind of taught me the ropes.
Mm.
And he was going through some things with his family, and I was learning about him, and he was learning about me, and so it was something that definitely helped me to make the transition,
Mm.
along with my publicist, who who was very helpful in getting me acclimated and implemented into the scene there. I didn't go very many places, but she put me in, gave me opportunities to be able to go and mix and mingle and learn, the city, and we went to premieres and all those types of things. Just very good um, times to be able to learn the culture of New York. And so,
Mm.
that those were the foundational pieces, along with being able to go to do community outreach with the Knicks
Right.
in different areas. And so, I did spoke at bar mitzvahs. I showed up to do, bar mitzvahs, and so there were just a lot of different things that I was able to do early on to get me acclimated to that culture.
Many people seem to forget that professional athletes are human. Let me explain. They have emotions, opinions, thoughts, everything. Okay. So, as a former professional athlete, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I, I've always said, when we look at the professional athlete, a lot of times they put on a pedestal so high that they feel like they're not a part of, you know, the normal community. But I always said that, professional sports is just a small microcosm of the entire world.
Mm.
Um, and and so you see a lot of different things happening, and people feel like that shouldn't happen to a professional athlete or actor or whomever it may be.
Mm.
But one of the things that I was taught was, from my dad and all the different coaches and teachers, that regardless of what you do, even as a profession, you're still a human being, and that being a profession and on television and making a lot of money doesn't mean that you're not a human being. So your thoughts, your opinions, that just gives you an opportunity to be able to share them and a lot more people to hear it. And so that's what we call a platform. We all have a
Mm.
platform somewhere, and as a professional, you have a bigger platform because of your nature, where your platform is. You reach a lot of people, but we all have our issues.
Right.
Because we play a sport doesn't mean that we're not human.
Come on.
And So that is, you know, that's the reason why they have sports psychologists, you know, because there's that mental grind that a lot
Yes.
of people don't feel like you should have because you're making a lot of money.
Right.
Money doesn't make you not human.
Come on now.
And so when we start thinking about it, the pressures that we're put upon to win, and sometimes it's because if you're making a lot of money, you're supposed to win, and if you don't win, and it's normally around winning in some form of fashion, if you're making a certain amount, um, and so I just think it's something that we all look at Asaki, um,
Mm,
tennis player. You know, it, I mean, she went through the mental health issue.
absolutely.
Um, Simone Biles,
Yep.
the same thing. People are like, how did she get to that point and then all of a sudden have this? Well,
Right.
she's human.
Hmm.
So sometimes it doesn't look that way, but we all have these mental blocks, and we all face them. And like I said, when you look at an athlete, they're just some they're just microcosm of someone in society,
Mm,
and there's a lot of people like them where they have mental blocks.
mm,
I know for myself, I don't eat at Outback Steakhouse. Um, One, I don't eat meat anymore,
mhm.
but I had during the playoffs um, in Chicago. I think it was Game 3. My wife Tanja was with me. We went out to eat with some friends in Chicago. This was during, I think, Michael Jordan. During one of those years, he was there,
Mhm.
and I got food poisoning. And I mean, I was throwing up, diarrhea, the whole night.
Right.
I was trying to get right before the game, and I never did. So I ended up missing the game because I was just too sick to play it.
Right.
And to this day, I don't eat. I don't go to Outback Steakhouse. Like I've never been back, and so that is the case with a lot of people. There's people who are shaped that way. Like that. Not a fear of whatever. I just don't feel like I should go back because of the experience. And so I'm always a big believer that we can sit and criticize other people, but it's hard because you don't know what they're dealing with, what they've had to go through, what their mental block is,
Mm,
until you actually sat in their shoes. And when you sit in someone else's shoes,
mm,
you'll find out that yes, I see why they may have made this decision,
mm.
and I see why they're struggling or they've had success. And so I just think it's important that we have some compassion for people who are making decisions. And even if that's their decision,
Right.
you still sometimes have to live with it, even if you don't agree.
Mm. I tell you what, um, and you're saying that even still today, Outback, no matter what, family want to go, it's Outback Steakhouse is just it's a no. The family, the household knows that.
Yes. And so we don't, I mean, we don't, that's not somewhere we are frequent.
Okay.
Um, and, I've actually met one of the owners of,
Mm,
you know, the guy who kind of started Outback.
mm.
I mean, I just won't, their meat may be good, I, but I had a bad piece in Chicago, and that has scarred me, in a lot of ways. That didn't drive me to being a plant based eater,
Right.
but um, it definitely left an impression on me.
Mm. I tell you what, and I wanted to point this out. Are there any social media handles that if people wanted to follow what you're doing, if they wanted to just participate part of any projects or just support it, anything that you're doing, where could they go as far as any social media handles, websites, anything like that?
I'm on Facebook. I'm Charlie Ward Official, and on Twitter, I'm the real Charlie Ward. So um, those are two of the social media handlers. And you can also check out my website. It's charlieward.org.
Hmm. I tell you what, in thinking about everything that we've talked about, or something that you may live by, there's something I created called encouragement for free.
Mm-hmm.
And to all of our followers and listeners, what is some encouragement for free that you can provide to them, no matter what it is? It could be something we just talked about, or something that a creed or mores you live by. What is some encouragement for free that you can provide uh, right now for our listeners?
Well, my parents always taught me about humility, and from early age, they instilled that in me, which kind of put me in the mindset of being in the background a lot
Hmm.
and not really receiving accolades and being proud of them because of just making sure I didn't put myself out there.
Hmm.
But I always talk about humility, wins in the end, and even sometimes when you're right, humbling out definitely helps helps the cause.
Hmm.
And whenever I'm talking to or mentoring brothers, a guy like Jameis Winston.
Hmm.
Um, Jameis, of course, was a high draft pick
Right.
with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had some really good years and some bad times as far
Right.
as exceptions and just those types of things. And he got demonized there, and his time in um, in Tampa, came to an end. And the thing that showed me the most about where he was, and this is basically his spiritual walk. He started to walk with the Lord a little closer, and I just always tell him humility will win in the end. And so he went and sat behind Drew Brees so that he can learn
He did.
for
He
a year.
did. Hmm.
And people are like, well, why is he going there? Why don't he go somewhere and play?
Right.
Well, I mean, as we talk about our journey, we don't know what God has in store for us, but I do know that God will honor our heart.
Hmm.
Our heart is in the right place. He's
Hmm.
going to honor that in some form of fashion. If our heart is in the wrong place, He's going to honor that as well. And
Wow.
so he went and sat for a year, played his role, learned from Drew Brees,
Hmm.
Tyson Hill, learned the system, and he was, he changed his diet, and he started, you know, understanding all of the different things that you need to do to be successful as a quarterback. And now he has an opportunity to be, he won the starting job at least for week one. And but I'm just happy for him. But it's just a great testimony because
It is.
sometimes being patient and being humble does win in the end.
Come on, man. Charlie, I'm about to jump through the screen, man. I'm about to jump through the screen. I can appreciate that, brother. I understand how the culture points in a certain direction toward all the flashy things. I'm not necessarily pointing in anything against that. But as my brother Charlie said, there is something to be rewarded on the level of showing humility, showing patience, keeping that level of determination. Over time, it will outweigh the outside noise.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you having me on, and all the best to you and your ministry and all the things you're doing. Hopefully, people will continue to tune in to you and I'm definitely grateful for the opportunity to be able to share part of my story.
Grateful to have you. As I've said before to all of my followers, sometimes in life, you must fail in order to succeed. But one thing must remain certain, that you never, under any circumstances, give up. I'm trying for a moment with T.Wood, with my brother, Charlie Ward. Thank y'all.